right, we got everybody, right? We can call to order. It is 6:43. Julie, if you could please roll call attendance to get us started.
All right, roll call. JC Harmon,
Yes, I'm here.
Natalie Saley, Elaine Siegel,
I'm here.
Martha Gaines.
Yes.
Great.
Fantastic. I don't see anybody here for citizen comments. Right, that's a 5. I lost my glasses. I apologize. They're around here somewhere.
Probably by the keys.
You know, I'm going to say this, I'm going to regret it. I always know where my keys are. I don't wear my glasses very often, which is part of why I don't know where they are. I got to find them. All right, we got no one for citizen comments. Our next agenda item is approving the minutes from January 20th, 2022. Would anyone like to throw a motion out?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
This is Martha. I have food in my mouth. I'm sorry. I second.
Don't worry about the food in your mouth. I am just glad that we are all here. That is my big priority today. Does anybody have any sort of discussion over the minutes?
I have a question that is not about these minutes, but Julie, do you mind sending me the minutes from the October meeting?
No, would you like those now?
When this is done. I just noticed they're not on the website and I need to put them up there. I know we approved them at the last meeting, but if you don't mind just forwarding those to me.
Yep.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, so Julie, if you can lead us in a roll call vote to pass the January 20, 2022 minutes.
All right, JC Harmon,
Yes.
Natalie Saley,
Yes.
Elaine Siegel,
Yes.
Martha Gaines.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so as we move forward, I just want to, yes.
I'm sorry, just really quick. Julie, we also send me the ones from March 4th, 2021 that you wrote up for us.
Yeah.
I know you sent these to me before. I just somehow I didn't get them online.
I'll get them. Yeah. Together.
You can send me tonight's October 7th and March 4th all in the same email and I'll get them all up there.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that we have a lot of stuff to get through tonight. I want to try to do this as efficiently as possible to respect everyone's time. Because there's a lot of stuff. There is no old business for our first point of new business. So we had recommended to the board that they vote on adopting Juneteenth, and it was requested of us that we figure out the details and make another recommendation that includes these details, such as what happens if it falls on a weekend. I also just want to note that in the future, this is the exact sort of situation when we should be turning to the board member that's on the committee. Right, Martha's going to be leaving us soon. But this is the sort of situation that like the board member that's on the committee, we need to make sure that we're asking that person exactly how the board wants the information and what they want, because that's going to cut down on this back and forth that we're having of having to have things bounce back and forth between the committee and the board. Because it didn't occur to me to have all those details ready when I presented it to the board last time. Yeah, those delays, I think that we can eliminate them if we're a little more organized. Okay, so would anybody like to make a motion to recommend that the Park District adopt Juneteenth as an official state holiday for staff in accordance with the state of Illinois legislation?
So moved.
I'll second. Natalie.
Fantastic. Okay, so this brings us to the discussion. So if the Park District would choose to do this, it would mean that Juneteenth would be like any other state recognized holiday. The only difference is that if Juneteenth were to fall on either a Saturday or a Sunday, there would not be an additional day off. I'm not sure exactly why this legislation was written differently than other holidays, but that's the way that it's written in Illinois right now. Um, and the other question, I should say that I have for you all is the state of Illinois is calling it National Freedom Day. That's what they're titling it. I don't know if we want to make a recommendation that the Park District do the same, or if we just call it Juneteenth and recognize it that way.
JC, I would say when we're taking the recommendation to the board for the board packet, I would include all of the language from what the state has said, like that whole article I forwarded you today. I would
Yeah.
include that information. My opinion on what to call it is I would prefer it be called Juneteenth. And so if the rest of the committee feels that way, I would say forward them that information from the state and say our only addendum to that is that we would like to recognize it as Juneteenth, if everybody agrees.
I agree, but I also think that we should consult with other groups as to the preference for calling it Juneteenth, so that it's not just our personal preference, but it's something that's speaking for a larger group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I know that I've talked to Kimon Hendricks, who is kind of the leader of the Juneteenth celebrations for the city of Evanston, and they recognize it as Juneteenth. So that's just where my thought process comes from.
Sure.
But I appreciate that thought. And if there's other organizations besides the city of Evanston, is there anybody else that you recommend off the top of your head, or just should we just
No,
do
but I think it should be pretty easy to find opinions about that and to be able to cite them. And I think that that following the lead of the Juneteenth committee, I think that makes good sense.
Mhm.
This is Martha. I don't have my camera on. Sorry. I echo everything that's been said already. I also feel like if I were asked individually, I would have to say something like, I don't really currently understand the basis for why some entities or states or whatever are choosing to call it Freedom Day versus the people who prefer Juneteenth. So I think Elaine makes a great point that asking groups, especially, people of color, Black people, people who know more about the history, people who are more involved in the, contemporary celebration and bringing the history to all the people who don't already know the history of Juneteenth. Those are the kinds of people that we can talk to get more of a wider opinion than just us as a group of people. But I also would be curious, opinions aside, I would be curious whatever objective basis there is for one name versus the other. And the only things I would say that occur to me is that for Juneteenth, obviously that's what it was called originally, and it sounds like it's morphing into Freedom Day in some places. So I like the idea of keeping the original name. I also like that the meaning that it has, versus like sort of new meaning being given to it. But I also worry that Juneteenth, for anyone who doesn't know what it is yet, the name doesn't tell you really anything until you dig into, the meaning and the history and all of that. Whereas Freedom Day is sort of like, wait, Freedom Day, we have Independence Day. What's Freedom Day? It kind of like makes it a little bit more to the point of what it is about. And I also like the idea that we're acknowledging that until Juneteenth, we were not all free as a country. You know what I mean? There were people who were still enslaved, and even after it was illegal to do so. So I definitely think that I land on the idea of let's talk to other entities in the community, and then we can make a call. Is that kind of, I forget now what Natalie said, but I'm remembering what Elaine said.
Natalie, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog was whining. I've talked to Kimone Hendricks and reached out to her after our last meeting to talk about ways that we can work with her for her Juneteenth celebration. And she is, and also I had spoken to Fuchsia, who runs anti-racism Playdate. And she had also recommended that I reach out to Kimone because Kimone is really like kind of the authority on Juneteenth for the city of Evanston. And it was really kind of like, I don't want to step on her toes or try, she puts a lot of time and energy year round into like doing this Juneteenth celebration for the city. There's a parade, it's a whole thing. So I know that Kimone, based on her website and conversations with her, specifically calls it a Juneteenth celebration. So I feel like that's how the largest entity in the city of Evanston celebrates that day, is by calling it Juneteenth and not National Freedom Day. If there's anybody besides Kimone you think we should reach out to, I'm happy to do that if you'd like. I'm not really quite sure who.
I'm thinking we should look for a pundit somewhere who kind of takes a look at, at different perspectives on it and comes down on the side of one thing or another. But I think that to me, Juneteenth is, it just has a cultural richness and tradition that appeals very strongly to me.
I feel like from what I've always known about Juneteenth and heard about Juneteenth, that's the way that African Americans celebrate that day. And it seems a little strange to change the name of that day.
I agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's it. If there's a good case for why and there's support on that for why from that specific community, then like, great. But it feels, at least the way I've always understood it, very specific to that name.
I have a hard time with just the title Freedom Day, because although the abolishment of slavery was further enforced at that time, I don't really know that what happened afterwards was really freedom, right? Like when you're being told what jobs you can have and where you can live and what you're allowed to do and who you can speak to, I don't know that that's necessarily freedom. I'm not a fan of that name with the knowledge that I have. If there's other knowledge that's out there that I'm not aware of that changes that perspective, I'm realizing now that I have not looked into it enough to really know why it got changed, like you said. But I have a hard time with that concept of calling it Freedom Day, because I don't see what happened afterwards as really being freedom.
And I have to say, I have a little bit of, to me, the term freedom has been hijacked. And I don't know that we want to be confused, to have our celebration of it confused with that.
That's a good point too. I had not thought about it from that point of view. Okay, so that begs the question. I'm feeling like maybe we're not quite ready to put together a full recommendation for the board for the next meeting, that we have a little bit more work to do, or do we just want to land on going with Juneteenth because that's what the other major celebration in Evanston we already know does?
Sure, and why don't we look for some other support at the same time that we do that? I don't think that it's going to be very difficult to dig that up.
Okay, so we'll postpone the recommendation until, what would that be, May? That's cutting it awfully close.
Let's plan on making the recommendation unless we come up with something that
contradicts,
that goes against that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I feel comfortable with that. Does everyone else feel good?
Yes, I definitely agree that we should kind of flesh it out further before we make a call. I also just want to say that, like, I've been Googling it, which of course I should have done before right now, but it says, not that Wikipedia is the source we want to use as like what guides what we do, but this is, one of the things that popped up when I searched for National Freedom Day versus Juneteenth, because I was trying to tap into, like, why do we have the two different names? Obviously, like, why do we have the new name is really the question. And it says that it's officially Juneteenth National Independence Day. But again, according to Wikipedia, it says also known as Jubilee Day, Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, and Black Independence Day. So, it sounds like it's even more complicated than we realized. I think honoring and respecting how individuals and entities that are super local to us, like Kimon and the entities that put on the celebrations for our Juneteenth parade, et cetera, is definitely a good place to start. But I would also love to know sort of the bigger picture of why other places are calling it various things. And it would be interesting to know too if there's a trend. Like, are more places calling it one thing than another? Not to complicate things further, but I think we can all just arrive at our next meeting with a bit more of the answers to the questions we've already put out, and hopefully land somewhere.
I think we're saying two different things though, Martha. I think Elaine and I are saying that we don't want to wait because otherwise it's going to be the May board meeting. I feel like that's cutting it too close to June.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. I was maybe reading something and didn't realize it and heard it wrong. So you and Elaine are wanting to move forward with the recommendation back to the board and we're just going to go with Juneteenth as what we're calling it.
Yes, unless we find something between now and then that contradicts what we're planning on doing. Does that make sense?
Then we're going to look at it right away.
Yeah.
We're going to look at it immediately so that we don't have a lag time there.
JC, I know that we've talked about in the board meeting, we talked about the REDI committee just meeting once a month right now. But if we need to meet a second time, I mean, we do have that first Thursday reserved before the board meeting. So we could potentially meet again. If we want to do independent research on this between now and then plan to meet on, what would that be? April 7th.
I think that sounds like the absolute best plan of action. And maybe we can even have this be the only agenda item so that we can just do it a real quick, short meeting, as long as nothing else comes up between now and then.
Good. And then just to confirm, are we doing independent research on this? Are
I think we should. Let's see what we each come up with. Let's look around at some local organizations and maybe some national ones that are using each name and see if we can figure out why to nail this down really, really well. So that's right the first time we do it and we don't have to revisit it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And at the risk of, obviously making that meeting that's supposed to be just a very quick follow-up, turn into something different, do we want to maybe ask Kimon if she would like to join us and say anything? Or maybe just the personal conversations and research that we can all do. I don't think we all need to reach out to her, times 4 or 5, whatever. And Natalie has already talked to her, but she might really appreciate the invitation to come and talk about it. I remember it must have been, I think it was before the pandemic. I had a long conversation with her about Juneteenth, and she was just overjoyed to share with me all of the history that she knows. And, we had a great conversation about it. And I just had such a great experience overall that I imagine, other people would enjoy that too. But again, I don't mean to set us up for a long meeting next time.
I need to follow up with her anyway. She's just real busy right now. So I need to follow up with her anyway, just to remind her I'm here if she needs me. So I can also invite her to the meeting if y'all would like me to. It might be nice for her to come and just talk to us a little bit about Juneteenth and her plans and weigh in on the conversation if she's willing.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that's the absolute way to go.
Okay,
cool.
I agree.
I just want to add in there because this is something that really, really stood out to me. And Natalie, can you remind me who you and I met with?
Fuchsia,
thank you. So when Natalie and I met with Fuchsia and we were talking about Juneteenth, one of the things that Fuchsia really emphasized, which was really surprising to me, but was really important for me to learn, was that Juneteenth is not the day that we take to tell people what Juneteenth is. Right? I was talking to Natalie about how a lot of people don't, and myself included, I don't know a whole lot of history about this. I know the really basic pieces. A lot of people don't know what it is at all. And so I was thinking that maybe the Park District's role could be to educate people on what that is. And I think that in itself is fine, but Juneteenth is not the day to do it, right? Juneteenth is all about celebration, right? She talked about, and I loved it because she and as a Brazilian person who was eating Brazilian barbecue my entire life, it was like black barbecue, right? And Domino's. And so I just wanted to share that because that was something that had not occurred to me, right? I'm in still such a learning place and I want other people to be in a learning place, but Juneteenth is not the day or the place to learn. Natalie and I talked about, and I don't know if this is something that we'll be able to accomplish, but doing something before Juneteenth so that by the time we get to Juneteenth, there's been that learning opportunity, but to not have it be on that day. I thought that was something really important that I learned that I wanted to share with you all.
Maybe we develop flyers, drawing on some of this research that we're going to be doing. Maybe we should have it ready for the next meeting so we can approve it and present it to the board.
Well, this makes me think of Kimon too, because like I said, she gave me this awesome history, some of which I knew, a lot of which I did not. And it was just so enjoyable. I mean, I think a lot of people love learning about history, period. And this is stuff everybody should know, and if they don't, that's okay. They can learn it. And so I think that if we perhaps compiled it's just an idea, but we could have a information either on our website or
We do.
I guess I don't know how it would be available digitally if not on the website. But sometimes if you have a digital flyer, you could actually have a link that people can click through the digital flyer. And then that way we could direct people to information. Because what I'm hearing is this argument for Juneteenth is not the day to like educate the people that don't know about Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the day for the people who do know, and for the people whose ancestors were, intimately affected by this piece of history, to celebrate the freedom and all of that. So I like all of that. I totally get all of that. And yet the people who don't know it yet need to know it. So if we could somehow do both, where we're sort of like sharing a link to the education, the history piece in the same vein as here's what we're doing to celebrate or whatever. Because I don't think actually the board landed on honoring the holiday officially. Will that mean it's a day that people don't come to work and it's a paid holiday? That's what it means federally. And then does that, like, the way, Natalie, the way we do the 4th of July, for instance, we have 4th of July activities, but it's not on the actual 4th, or it is on the actual 4th. I always get confused with that one.
Yeah, it is on the actual 4th. So as JC was saying earlier, the reason the board didn't decide on it is because they wanted follow-up information. Right. So I had sent JC the link today to the state legislation on Juneteenth that they passed last year. And they are recognizing it as a state holiday, but they are not recognizing it in the same way that they do the 4th of July, for example. So like the 4th of July, if it falls on a Saturday, we get Friday off. If it falls on a Sunday, we take Monday off. Juneteenth, we only get the day off. It's only a paid holiday for staff if it falls on a weekday. So it won't have that Saturday, Sunday component to it. I don't know why they decided to do it that way, but they did. So we're talking about making the same recommendation to the board and attaching the information from the state legislation.
Okay. And at the city level, is the city also just adopting what the state is doing?
I'm not sure. I know the city did adopt it, but I don't know if they made any addendums to it. Let's see if I can find out.
Excuse the non sequitur, but can we put up a banner?
Put up a what?
A banner
On the website.
along Ridge.
Oh, a real banner, not like at the top of the website page.
Yeah. Well, it can cite to the website page.
Speaking of the website page, just so that we all know, I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you guys.
Can I just chime in while you're getting that going, Natalie, that I love the idea of a banner. And the reason I love it is because I think that the more we can shout from the mountaintops that we are honoring and celebrating Juneteenth, the better. As long as it sort of is like within budget and within our capabilities and so a banner is a perfect example of something that is high visibility and sort of wears our, feelings on our sleeve and yet is very easy to do. Because having, an official, well documented, the board votes and the entity, the Ridgeville Park District, has accepted. Why am I not remembering the terminology to use here? We are, somebody help me out. What is the wording for officially? What is it? Recognizing?
Adopting it as a
Okay.
holiday.
So I mean, that's obviously the very important step that has to happen. But then, like, how if that's all we do, there are so many people who won't know, won't see, won't realize that. So, because you'd have to be tuning into a board meeting or read the minutes to know that part of it. I think it's more. I love the banner idea. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay, back to you, Natalie.
I just wanted to share, this is our equity page in case anyone hasn't seen it before. So this page was developed, Dr. Effiam and I developed this page together, and it includes all the information that's set forth in the charter. It has we've got the racial equity survey here. It has information on just like continued education concerning racial equity, reading recommendations for adults and children, history on Black History Month, and then it has a Juneteenth portion as well. So this is recommended reading that that she and I found together that she felt like should be on here, and then a link to the city's celebration information as well. So there is Juneteenth information on our equity page that lives here all the time. And if we did make a flyer, I could make a flyer that could be sent out as a newsletter. And then also post it on our social media. That could also be printed if we wanted to hang it at the parks, or, I can make a banner. I make the banners, I paint them. So I'm not very artistic, so it won't be the most beautiful banner, but I can say Happy Juneteenth and direct people to the website or to anything else that we think they should be directed to. But just so that's what's entailed with the banner, is Natalie paints the banner.
Wait, what if the arts camp made a banner?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's okay. That's okay with me. It'd be great if the kids did something like that.
Well, I'm thinking of Fuchsia too, and she doesn't just run the anti-racist play date, but that is one of many things she does. She also, if you'll recall, Natalie, and I'm sure you will, but before the pandemic, we were going to, at least we had started talking about planning the Anti-Racist Art Fest being in one of our parks possibly. And I just don't think we got, you probably remember even better than I do. I don't know how far we got along in the process of planning that, but I do know that it was the pandemic that messed it up, right?
Yeah, we had to cancel it because of the pandemic. She's not offering it this year, but we are hosting the PTA Equity Projects Festival on June 4th.
Oh, great. I was just thinking of Fuchsia because she's very artistic and she's involved in all kinds of artistic pursuits, and she does at the anti-racist playdates that she's scheduled, there's often like a sidewalk chalk or make posters that get put on the fencing around the schools, yarn bombing and yarn crafts on, so we could at least ask her if she wants to help kind of brainstorm how to have like a community-based art event that creates a banner or other things around Juneteenth. And this kind of gets into that territory of how we've talked about before, that we don't want to like reinvent the wheel or step on toes when it comes to planning any Juneteenth activities, because whatever else is going on is what we need to know about first and make sure that we're not, duplicating the effort or taking audience away from another entity, Kimon's stuff and all of that. And that being said, if we're talking about doing a banner and then we're talking about maybe having the community get involved in doing it, there are some cool ways that we could do that. But I like the idea of the camps doing it too. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk to Fuchsia. She might even be interested in coming in and like doing a workshop with the kids to make the banner.
Yeah.
She might be interested.
I think that'd be awesome.
I think it's worth talking to her. She can take it and run with it, or she can tell us she's too busy, whatever, but we could start the conversation.
She also has a brand new business, printing business. So I don't know if it's just like clothing that they do, or if she does things like banners. But if we have the budget for it, you know, we could potentially like design something that we would have every year and have her print it. Or it could be like an art project that the kids do and design it and paint it. We could do that every year. I mean, that could be a camp project every year. I like it as a camp project. I feel like one banner isn't quite enough to make a whole community event out of. But it's certainly enough to do with a group of kids. I think that they would really enjoy it, and it would be in June. So it would be a great opportunity to like incorporate some kind of like Juneteenth celebration thing for the campers.
Well,
Yeah.
the banner too would be, I'm thinking of something that would be along Ridge. And
Mhm.
so that's
Right.
something that, you know, that puts a focus on the park district and on the activities here at the same time that it's, you know, adding our support to the, you know, to the celebration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Elaine. That's a really good point, that it's sort of achieving a lot of, you know, goals that kind of relate to each other, but are also separate all at once. I'm thinking too, when you mentioned Fuchsia's printing business, it's like silk screen printing, right? So it's like printing on fabric as opposed to paper, or maybe she's doing all of it. I saw her posting about that, and I followed up with her.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's specifically, I know she said she's doing things other than clothing, but I don't know if that extends to banners.
Okay. Well, one idea I have is that sometimes we make t-shirts for events, like specifically, like I think, didn't we do an Earth Day t-shirt last year? And
Yeah.
so, you know, it gets to be a whole lot of t-shirts that may or may not actually, you know, get kept after the events. If we were to do like a Juneteenth shirt, camp shirt, what did I just say? Earth Day shirt. But what if, and this would require some planning, what if we did sort of like a shirt that was sort of like a per year shirt, and it could become like a collectible item or a fundraising item or all of the above? And what if we had sort of like a Juneteenth image for 2022, a camp image for 2022, an Earth Day image for 2022, and sort of like incorporated them into one t-shirt? I'm obviously just brainstorming out loud, but I like the idea that it would be sort of like this collage sort of like various, you know, celebrations or events or groups of people or whatever that that we focus on throughout the year, that are all sort of like tied into one. And we've talked about swag before, Natalie, you know, kind of trying to upgrade our swag. So it might even be the kind of thing where it wasn't like just a one-off per year. It would be something that a lot of design would go into, and then we'd have them for multiple years at a time or something. And the Juneteenth thing could tie in. So sorry, again, just brainstorming out loud.
I won't have the budget for that this year because it's expensive to do that, but I love that. I mean, that was something that came up at and actually I've streamlining our logos, like having a separate logo, like we have a separate logo for our Studio 908 classes, having a specific logo for like our summer camps, and they're all kind of connected. So like creating different images for different programs that we do that are kind of big, and allowing that to kind of streamline all of our marketing. So yeah, anyway, that's cool. I just know for this year, because this budget has to get us through the end of June, I know we won't have the budget to do Juneteenth shirts for this year, but it's certainly something we could talk about for the next fiscal year.
Well, also, I know, you know, giving t-shirts away for free is one way to do it. Or giving shirts away to camp participants, for instance, when it comes to the camp shirt. And that way it's tied in with like, you know, they've paid for the camps or whatever. But we could do a t-shirt that was like very artfully designed and very intentional, and actually charge for it, like as a fundraising effort, so that the shirt, the proceeds from selling the shirts would not only cover the cost of the shirts, but would hopefully we could have like goes to the scholarship fund, or, you know, it's a way for us to donate to the PEP fund if we're even allowed to do that as an entity. I don't know the rules around that. Or it could be just sort of like a joint fundraising effort. And again, like I'm all over the place right now, I realize that, but I like the idea of sort of a Ridgeville shirt that is like celebrating multiple things at once and having a lot of things incorporated. And I'm thinking of like the farmer's market. The farmer's market does like a canvas bag, and they don't give them away for free. You have to buy them, but then you use it at the farmer's market, and you're also showing your support of the farmer's market when you're out around town, using it for your groceries or whatever. And so instead of just kind of a throwaway shirt, like the sports events have those shirt cannons and they throw the shirts and it's really fun. But like, does everybody really keep the shirts? Do they even fit them? That kind of stuff. When you do it more artfully and you like get the higher quality cotton shirts, then they're like all of a sudden a shirt that people really want and that they would pay for, So again, it's kind of a future project, not something that we can tackle immediately. But I don't think it's something that we would necessarily have to fully fund. I think it's something we could sell.
Yeah, I'll talk to Brian about that. We have weird parameters around selling things and like fundraising. So let me talk to him and get the inside scoop on that. But that's cool. I mean, I would love to see people running around in their Ridgeville shirts.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, unless anyone else wants to add anything super important, I'm gonna suggest we table the rest of this discussion about Juneteenth for our next meeting for April 7th, and we can hash this out. We all have some homework to do to find out about who's calling it Juneteenth and who's calling it Freedom Day, and then we can, I think, open up that meeting to a little bit more of what we want to do for Juneteenth and all that sort of stuff. Does that sound good?
Do we need to, there's a motion on the table. Do we need to vote or do we need to vote to table it?
I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the motion gets removed and we can just table it without voting? Or is that not because it's listed as for action, we have to vote?
You don't have to vote. For action means that you're reserving the right to vote and you're giving notice to the public that you might vote, but you're never obligated to vote unless it's something like we have to approve the budget. I mean, that's obviously kind of controlled.
Have the motions on the floor though. Elaine made a motion and I seconded it.
Well, but she can remove it. Anyone can remove their own motion. And as to whether you have to remove it to table it, I don't know. I think you can table, yeah, I think that's right. Once a motion's on the floor, you have to remove it. You could have tabled it before a motion was made, but now that a motion's been made, you have to withdraw.
I remove it.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll table that, talk about that at our next meeting in April 7th. I think it'd be fantastic if Kimon came. I've got some other ideas that I think might be fun and informative. Okay. On that note, that brings us to our next agenda item, the update on board decisions. I just want, Martha, Natalie, and I were at the meeting. Elaine, I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to watch the last board meeting yet.
I watched much of it.
I don't know if I told you my trick of listening to it in fast speed. It makes it a little bit more tolerable, in my opinion. It goes by a little faster. So as you all know, I expressed my concern to the board regarding their lack of equity work that we've been able to accomplish. I've become increasingly concerned after this last board meeting when it seemed none of the board members had any recollection of the series of events that had taken place since the formation of the committee. It was expressed by the board, or at least some of the commissioners, that they are unhappy with the quality of our work that we've been producing, particularly the board reports, and how the attempted hiring of the equity consultant was handled. I personally find this particularly frustrating because I explicitly said that I needed support to be in this position as chair of the committee. I do not have any experience or training to do this, and I was told that I was going to have access to an equity consultant to guide me. Instead, I've been attempting to keep this committee active and running without the guidance I was promised, and now I'm being told we're not doing a good job. From my point of view, we have done exactly what's been asked of us to the best of our abilities and to what I think is the best that we can be expected, because we have not had proper support from the board to hire a new equity consultant for the entire year since our contract with Dr. Effiam ended. Moving forward, I think that we really need to identify where the mistakes were made. I think we need to formulate plans to attempt to stop these mistakes from happening again. Some solutions we are ready to put in place include recommending the board vote on a request for proposals or an RFP to the board so that we can begin to search for an equity consultant as well as create a plan for training new board members and new committee members. We're going to cover both these items with later agenda items. We also need to receive clear and specific directives from the board. I would prefer to have them in writing, even if they're just in the minutes, so that we are doing exactly what the board would like throughout the hiring process for a new consultant. I was really excited that, as frustrating as that meeting was, it did land on us being able to start this process again. I think this is an incredibly important step. I don't think that we can do the work that Dr. Effiam laid out for us without a consultant. We're not trained to do that. Even though you were either at or watched the meeting, I really just wanted to kind of lay out what my concerns are at this point with the board and the committee. But with the super fantastic RFP that Natalie put together, and the board, putting us in a position that we can now move in this direction, I'm feeling more positive that we are actually going to be able to accomplish this work in a relatively timely manner, as opposed to how I was feeling before. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to this. I really don't want to hash over the meeting. I don't think that's a good use of our time. If anyone wants to talk individually about what happened in the meeting, or, if you guys have any recommendations of what I could have done differently or things that I left out or anything along those lines, I am really interested in hearing that information. I just don't know that using REDI committee open meeting time is the best use for that. Unless
well, let me jump in, and there's one thing that I do want to say, and I did review that. I reviewed much of that meeting, and my feeling about it was that the board was not leading on these issues, and they perhaps don't know how to lead, and that we in fact are, and we have plenty to learn, and we certainly need to have a consultant to assist us with that. But I think that we should keep working, keep going forward, and take the lead on that.
Thank you, Elaine. Does anyone else want to say anything about that, or should just move into Natalie's super amazing work that she did? Okay.
I have nothing to say.
Okay, so our next agenda item, which is for action, is to vote on the request for proposal recommendation for the new equity consultant. I do want to say two quick things before I turn this over to Natalie. First of all, I think it is really important that when we talk about these issues, that we don't just throw around acronyms. I think that when things like requests for proposals are only referred to as RFPs, people who are watching the meetings, I know no one's here now, but people who are watching the meetings later may not have access to that information, and not giving them access to that information in the meeting makes it more difficult for them to be able to have their voices heard and to participate in that process. So I just want us to be mindful we can use the acronym moving forward, but I just want to make sure that we are really speaking about things in a way that the general public can understand without having to do a whole ton of research. The other thing that I want to say is thank you to Natalie for putting this together and on this time frame. I don't even know if working on the REDI committee is on Natalie's job description. This is just all extra stuff that has been put in her lap over and over and over again. The work that she does for the committee is crucial and incredibly time consuming. The request for proposal she put together, I'm not familiar with these, but it seems super well done. And I felt like it really reflected what our goal as a committee is of really making Ridgeville Park District an anti-racist institution. Natalie, I'm really incredibly impressed by what you've done. And I am so grateful for your commitment to the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For the record, I did not know what an RFP was either when I volunteered to make it. So I did have to Google it myself. But I'm going to share my screen because I just want to go through it with you all. Okay. All right. Can you just see the document or can you see my whole screen?
We can't see anything yet. It seems to take a minute to come up.
Okay. Can you see it yet?
Yes.
Is it just the document or can you see my whole computer screen?
Your whole screen. We can see like your tabs at the top and your stuff along the side.
Okay, no problem. I'm just gonna make it bigger so I can make sure that we're looking at it. Okay, everybody can see?
Yeah, maybe if you want to make the Zoom a higher percentage, it might fill the screen a bit more and make the text bigger. It looks like it's at 100 and something already, but
It's at 259 on my screen.
oh, it is. Okay.
Now it's bigger.
I can read it. Okay. I can read it, but it's still pretty small text. So if you're able to make it any bigger, that would be awesome. I don't have a printed copy with me at the moment.
If I make it any bigger, it's gonna be too big for me to read. It's taking up my whole screen right
Okay.
now.
Okay. It's fine.
Hold on, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can make it bigger this way. How's that? Better?
It looks the same to me.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to go through it. You guys can also pull it up on your, if you have it on your phones or something, if you want to follow through that way. So
I'm sorry. I was responding, Natalie, but I was muted.
What?
I was just telling you that it was cut off on the right side, but now it's back to like, you can read every word. So yeah, it's good. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I did a search online for a request for proposal template. And I was specifically looking for organizations that had sought out DEI consultants. I found one that I thought was pretty closely related to what we're looking for. So I used that as a template. So some of the language in here is from that template. Some of it I wrote, and then most of it is just information that already existed. So Commissioner Rogers had asked for an RFP from the REDI committee for our REDI consultant. So that's where I got all of this information to put in here. So the Ridgeville Park District here, the description of it, that's straight from our website. Our mission is straight from our website. I've included the link to our website here. The Ridgeville Park District's current investment in racial equity, diversity, and inclusion work. This is all from our equity page on our website. This is something that I had written with Dr. Effiam when we had put that page up to begin with. So I included that information here. I also included the information or the dates in which that we had worked with Effiam and Associates, and let anybody who's looking at this document know that there are 4 attachments. So there's a scope of work, which is in attachment A. Then it also has the equity climate assessment report from Dr. Effiam, the equity charter that was passed by the board, and the equity lens procedure that was passed by the board. And I know you all know this, but just to say, the equity charter and the equity lens procedure were documents that we built together with Dr. Effiam within the REDI committee and took to the board to be adopted by the Park District, and they were. Increasing our commitment. Some of this language is most of this actually is from the website as well. So this is part of the charter that talked about how we were going to create a REDI committee. I felt like it was important to include that information here under increasing our commitment to show that the Ridgeville Park District REDI committee was appointed by the Board of Commissioners on August 11th of 2020. And then state that we wish to deepen the impact of our racial equity, diversity, and inclusion work by further developing the REDI committee. which is also included in the scope of services page for any consultant or firm looking at this. So to that end, Ridgeville Park District has sketched out a scope of work as attached as attachment A. The things that I've highlighted here that are in yellow are questions I have for the board. So I had said in the board meeting, you know, if the board wanted the REDI committee, go back to the drawing board on equity consultants, I wanted very clear and concise like directions on how to do that, because I mean, we all put in a lot of time last year interviewing consultants, recommending Dr. Logan, going through like the first contract process with him. So I just want to make sure that if we do this again, we get better results, that we can make it a quicker process and not have to like drag it on for months and months. I want to make sure that we're delivering to the board exactly it is what they want. So I still don't have a lot of those answers. So they asked me to write an RFP, which is great, but there's still not a lot of direction as to how this process is going to work. So I have it in the proposal. And then if we all agree on it tonight, this is what we'll take to the board. And if they agree on it, that's how the process is going forward. So anyway, the first question I had is this piece highlighted in yellow. The selected consultant will report directly to the REDI committee chair and executive director of Ridgeville Park District as necessary. This is what was included in the contract that we were building for Dr. Logan. There's another kind of motion floating about with the board when it comes to contracts and how those are going to work moving forward. And it sounds like there hasn't been a vote on this. Hopefully there will be in April. I know one of the commissioners is working on a policy for it, but it sounds like any contract employee that's coming on as an advisor or consultant will in fact report to the board in some capacity, or at least the board will have to I guess, interview and hire them. It feels like that's the direction that it's heading in. So I don't know if this will remain true, that the consultant will report directly to the committee chair. Obviously, they'll have to communicate with the committee chair. But I don't know if that's how the board wants it to stand in this RFP. Any questions about that? Okay. Great. So then moving on to proposals. So this is language that I did take from the template.
Natalie,
and again,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Martha. Okay. I'm sorry. My internet cut out and you had started to say that it sounds like the equity consultant would report to the board at least partially, and then I missed the rest of that. Will you just say that part again?
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true or not. I was saying that there's a motion floating about that's being developed right now stating how contracts with consultants and advisors will happen in the future. If it gets passed by the board, it seems as though the board will be hiring directly any consultant that we work with, or interviewing them, or they'll be directly reporting to them. I'm not sure because that motion isn't complete, but Commissioner Rogers is putting that on the table and he's working on that language with Charles right now. So if that gets passed, this might change. So in the RFP right now, it states that the consultant will report directly to the committee chair and to the executive director. That's the language that was used in the contract made for Dr. Logan by Charles, but I don't know if that will stay the same. So that's one question that I have for the board when we take this to them.
Okay, great. Thank you for saying that again. And now I know the motion that you're talking about because I've seen that language and I just didn't know. I didn't know what the rest of that part was because I didn't hear you. But yeah, that all makes sense.
Okay. So the proposals, the proposal piece, again, is some language I took from the template. So again, this might change. This is a whole area of direction that we have yet to get from the board yet. So I used the language that they had for their proposal process. This could very easily change. But what I've got here is that we need background information. There was a line in here earlier about equal employment opportunity and specifically seeking out individuals and firms that were minority owned. I talked to Charles, our attorney, today, and he recommended that I take that line out and just replace it with our hiring, our equal opportunity policy instead of that language. Because we're a taxing authority, we're a park district. It's different than the organization that I had found this template from. So he felt like it was important to change that. So that's what that blue is. That's just a difference from the very first draft of this that I sent you. Experience in providing services. So that's describing the experience of the firm has in providing similar services to other organizations. Approach, provide a description of the approach you or your firm use when consulting with organizations. Tell us what you believe most firmly in your practice, what guides your practice of DEI work. Business references, a list of 3 verifiable client references, and a fee schedule. This is a proposed schedule of fees, including how fees are structured. Dr. Logan, for example, he was going to charge us an hourly fee. Dr. Effiam had a different kind of fee schedule. We gave her like a lump sum every couple of months. So that was like built into her contract. So that's a piece of the proposal that we'll need to see from this consultant. Conflicts of interest, any known facts which would or could create a conflict of interest with Ridgeville Park District if you were awarded a contract. The process, again, this is a big question mark. I need the board to give me direction on this, but a lot of this is language from the template. This is a time and date that they need to be received by. This is who to send them to. This is something I thought was important that I liked from the template. In the interest of fair process and equal access, if there's any questions about this RFP or about the position, they'll be answered publicly on our website. So that way everybody has the answers to any question. It just creates an extra layer of transparency.
I'm sorry, Natalie, I just want to pause you for a quick second. I think that piece is really important. I think that puts a lot of equity into this.
Yeah, same.
I really like that piece in there. I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Board of Commissioners will review. So this is another question. I don't know if the board will review it. I don't know if they want us to review it first. I don't know if they'll be speaking with client references. Again, this motion that's on the table about how contracts are going to work with consultants, I think will hopefully answer some of these questions, but these are highlighted yellow because I don't know. Interviews will be held when and by who, I'm not sure. We anticipate that the selected respondent will be notified by I don't know when, with services to commence on I don't know. Updates or changes to this process, if any, again, will be announced on our website. Criteria, the Ridgeville Park District will evaluate respondents based on the written response to this RFP, the interview results, references, and any other information that we request. The Park District, in its sole discretion, will make its selection based on the following criteria: that the consultant understand in their approach in providing services, demonstrated qualifications and experience in this work, references, and proposed fees. Ridgeville Park District reserves the right to accept any one or more than one proposal, to withdraw or cancel, to modify or amend. This is just kind of protection language. And then here at the bottom, I also include this information, which I think is important based on how this went for us last time. The successful respondent will be expected to enter into a standard service agreement. So that is the contract that we have now made and prepared by our attorney. And that will be the contract that we use for any consultant moving forward. Any questions so far? Okay.
Wait, no questions. I just want to make a comment. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm feeling very strongly that we need to strengthen what we've done so far so that our work could be stronger moving forward. And I think that the way that you have put this together absolutely puts us in that position. And thank you again.
Yeah. Okay, so attachment A. So I wrote a lot of this. I also took some of this from our website. So this is the scope of services. So this is like essentially what we're asking this consultant to do. Some of this also came from both the contract that JC and I put together with Dr. Logan and the contract made by Charles, and definitions and terms that were written by Dr. Effiam and I for our website. So it's kind of a compilation of a lot of different documents. But basically it says that the Park District has determined it's in its best interest to engage a consultant to assist in developing plans to enhance the Park District's efforts to ensure that parks, facilities, services, and programs are accessible to all people regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, status, sex, gender identity or expression, pregnancy, sexual orientation, age, disability, or military status. This language is directly from Charles's contract. So I pulled it right out of there. Moving into the committee, because that's where a lot of this work is going to be done. This is some stuff that was put together by Dr. Logan and JC and I, that I rewrote a little bit for this. So this is the work that we expect the consultant to do with us. Further define the REDI committee in terms of its purpose and procedure, establishing a successful working relationship with RPD Board of Commissioners and staff, determining the kinds of recommendations the REDI committee makes to the board, determining if, how, and when to act proactively versus reactively. Develop annual or biannual evaluations for the REDI committee to ensure they are effectively working with the board and staff to continue the Park District in the direction of an anti-racist institution under the following definitions. So these definitions here are the definitions that are listed on our website as being an anti-racist institution. This is all language that we wrote with Dr. Effiam. So this is what I've included here. I'm not going to read all that to you. Create and provide training coaching on the following. So training to the REDI committee on how to execute the racial equity lens passed by the Board of Commissioners in 2021, revise as needed. Racial equity training for the REDI committee staff and board members. This training will set the standard and be administered to incoming REDI committee members, staff, and board members. Training should include, but is not limited to, the following definitions that guide our work. Again, all of these definitions are definitions that Dr. Effiam and I put together that have been on our website. They include anti-racism, equity, equality, implicit bias, race, racial equity, racism, and white privilege. View the equity climate assessment, attachment B, performed by Effiam and Associates, and recommendations in order to assist the REDI committee on how to take the next steps and execute the recommendations to the board accordingly. So her equity climate assessment, if you remember, includes a whole list of recommendations for us. One of them was to create this committee, but there's different ordinances that we need to take a look at. There's some other things that she has included in there. So this piece number 4 really asks the advisor, the consultant, to go through her recommendations with us and help us take steps forward on them. 5, the regional equity charter and equity lens process, and guide the REDI committee on how to properly utilize it and execute the guidelines within these documents. 6 is attend monthly or bi-monthly REDI committee meetings as agreed upon by consultant and committee chair. That's the scope of services. Do you feel like there's anything missing? Do you feel like there's, I see some like editing things I need to do in here, which I'm trying not to focus on right now. But do you think there's anything missing that needs to be added? How do you feel about the scope of services? Thoughts?
No, I think it's fine.
I think compared to what we came up with for Dr. Logan, that this is so much better organized. It's more clear. It's not repetitive. You really did a great job taking that document that we created before and made it something that's much more functional.
That's what I tried to do. I'm seeing little things that I need to fix, but this is the general thought. Do you all agree that this is the stuff that we need to do as a committee with the consultant?
Yeah, I think it's both broad enough and specific enough. I think it's very good.
Okay. Great.
I think it's great too. And I just want to echo, JC's sentiments that I really appreciate the work you did, Natalie, to put all of that together. And I know that I hear you left and right saying, well, I just took this from X. I just took this from Y. We did this with Dr. Effiam. So I know you're, by and large, just gathering from work that you've done, we've done. But I think what's so special about that nonetheless is that, we all know what we've done, but the longer it goes on, the harder it is to, on the spot, just like verbally come up with all of it and deliver it to somebody, at a moment's notice. And so having it so well organized and well compiled, and, the board may well want to make additions, changes, deletions, whatever. We can't control for that. And they're part of the process too, to finalize the RFP. But I think this is such a great start. And it also makes me really proud of us collectively that we've already gotten so far to be able to put all of that into an RFP, because there was a time where if we were pressed to put an RFP together, we wouldn't have had a whole lot of anything like ready to go. And like, look at us now. You know what I mean? So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I'm proud of us too. I mean, this is a lot. I mean, we did all these things. I mean, these things here, like, so I don't need to read any of the rest. Like, it's the equity assessment that Pat made. I've included here. I've included the equity charter that was passed by the board that we built with Pat. And then I've included the equity lens process. So, I mean, these are all things that we've made together. I think that's partly what frustrates me sometimes in board meetings, is like, this stuff already exists. Like, all the answers are there. If it is helpful for it all to be within one document, again, it's worth the time it took me to put this together, so that at least we have this as a full reference. But it's full of stuff that we've done, which I think is super impressive, and really exciting to share with the board and anybody who's interested in working with us. So that's essentially it. That's it. I need to just go through it and do some tweaking. Just do another round of like editing on this, but this is essentially what our RFP will be to the board. Everybody comfortable with this? Are you comfortable with me? So the next thing we need to do is vote that I can take this to the board.
Oh, I agree.
Do we have a motion on the table for approving this RFP yet, or no? Okay.
No.
And does it say for action on our agenda for this? I don't have it in front of me at the exact
Yes,
moment.
it does. I'm hoping somebody will make a motion so that we can vote.
So
Okay.
moved.
Okay, I will second. This is Martha.
Right, Julie, if you could roll call vote us, please. Excuse me.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Great. JC Harmon,
yes.
Natalie Sully,
Yes.
Elaine Siegel,
Yes.
Martha Gaines.
Yes.
Awesome. I can't say it enough, Natalie. I'm super proud of you. I'm really impressed. I've seen you do some really amazing things. This tops the list.
Pretty proud of it. I made Brian read it all today.
Good. If I were you, I would like invite your friends over and make them listen to it, because I think you should be very proud.
Yeah. We might do a dramatic reenactment.
Oh yeah. I like that. I'd like that.
Actors, so.
Okay, so our next agenda item is we have somebody interested in the committee. I'm so excited to share this with you all. I don't want to tell you too much about him. I would like for him to, be able to introduce himself. I don't want to misspeak or misrepresent him in any way. I did meet him. His name is Andrew. I met with him a few weeks ago. I think that he is an excellent fit for the committee. But so I need to know from all of you how we're going to go about this. I just kind of envisioned, him joining the next meeting, which I don't know if it's something we would want to add on to the April 7th meeting, or if we want to do it, the subsequent one, the second April meeting. But I'm curious how you all want to go about this. We've not had any inquiries. We don't really know. I'm assuming, you all would want to meet him. I don't know if we're doing like an interview process. I don't know if we're just saying, come join us. I'm curious what you all think. I don't think we have any sort of guidelines on this. And if I'm wrong, please correct me.
The only thing I'll say about that is when we went through this process, I remember Dr. Effiam had a meeting with us, and then she gave us a week to think about it. when we met the first time, she explained what the committee was going to be, like the training that would be involved, and kind of sent us away for a week to like really consider if we could commit to that work. And then reached out to us, or we reached out to her to confirm if we wanted to be a part of it. And then at that point, the board appointed us officially. And then we were required to go through training. So I don't know if you want to use the process that we went through to be committee members for any future committee members, or if we want to change that procedure. I'm comfortable with doing it the way we did it.
I am too. I like that. I especially like that, right? Like we weren't even allowed to communicate to Dr. Effiam before the week had passed. She really wanted us to use that entire time.
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece. I want to make sure that whoever joins our committee is going to be on here to get work done and to be on it long term, as long term as possible. I understand things come up, people move, right? Like, but with the best of intentions coming in with that full commitment. Martha and Elaine, what do you think?
Agree.
I agree too. I don't have any new ideas. I don't have any better ideas. You know what I mean? I think that generally speaking, I would have a concern that if we were to just be like, anyone who wants to be on the REDI committee, come join us, we might, risk that we have people who could get involved who we might wish we'd been a little bit more judicious about them joining. But that being said, I don't think we're at a high risk for that happening. And I think, what I remember, it's a long time ago now, but what I remember is that, interacting a little bit through an interview process, I think what we did before was good. I mean, I love that part where how Pat was like, people need to take some time to think about it. It really gave like the weight to the position itself that it deserves to be like regarded with such a, before you commit to this, like take some time, think about it. I especially like that part. So yeah, I definitely agree that we should kind of do what we did last time.
Awesome.
Do you want to invite him to our next meeting?
Should we do it at the April 7th?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. I will reach out to him.
Well, you know what, JC, that actually, if he came to the April 7th meeting and he took a week and let us know on the 7th, if he took a week and let us know on the 14th, he could potentially be appointed that night by the board, because that's the board meeting night. So then he would be a equity or a committee member by the 21st meeting. That way, I'm just saying he wouldn't have to wait till May.
Right. I think that's important, especially in the light of Iden stepping off the committee. I think we're going to need an extra person to help us do this, looking for the equity consultant. I also think it would be helpful to have him be officially a part of the committee before we start with a consultant. So we're not starting with a new consultant and then immediately after a new committee member.
Yeah.
So is everyone comfortable with that? I'll contact him and see, check and see that he's still interested. See if he can come to the April 7th with the hope that if he's still interested by the 14th meeting, he would be appointed.
I would let him know, JC, just those dates and times. So April 7th, 6:30, and then tell him we're going to give him a week to sleep on it. And then if he's good to go, then he's invited to the board meeting on April 14th to be appointed at 7:30. And I'll put that on the agenda so that everybody knows what's happening if he decides he wants to.
Okay. This isn't an item for action. Is this something that we need to vote on, or is this is just a discussion that we can follow through with? Because it's not like we don't need permission from the board for this, right? We're just good to go.
Mm-mm.
Okay, awesome.
No, they just need to appoint him. I mean, we just have to make him ready for the meeting.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I may have missed this. Regarding this committee, this candidate's interest in joining the committee, did they fill out the same like survey type thing that everybody did originally?
I think he reached out to JC directly. Because
Yeah,
I've been including information in our newsletters about it
Mhm.
and telling people to reach out to her directly. So, right? Is that right, JC?
It is, and it's in the pamphlet that got mailed out to everybody. My email's in there. So if they're
Yeah.
interested in the committee or have any questions about the committee, they can contact me directly. So
Okay.
he did not fill out that questionnaire.
And I think that's fine. I'm certainly not saying that he would need to or that anyone would need to, just because that's the way we did it before. But I was trying to get at if there was anything that had existed in writing that we could see as a committee. But I don't think it's necessary. So yeah, I was just curious if that was, because I think that Judith had like questions about like, why would you want to get involved? Or maybe that was the secondary step.
It's not that. The racial equity survey has all those questions on it. But the survey that I made for our first round of like trying to recruit committee members was just like, what's your name? What do you want to do?
Okay.
It was very basic. There wasn't really any information. So I've kind of transitioned now for people who are interested just to talk to JC.
Okay.
She was willing to let me share her email address. So that's how I've been telling people to contact us.
Okay.
Look, and if it gets to a point where we actually have, which I would love to have that happen, right? Where we actually have a lot of people interested in participating on the committee, we have a cap of 5 people. So we would have to, at some point, if we have a lot of interest, look at, how we're choosing who would be on the committee, if there's going to be time limits, all that sort of stuff. But I think as of now, because the interest has been us and now Andrew, I think that we can, cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will reach out to him and I will let you all know what I hear back.
Great.
I really liked him. I liked him as a person, and I liked his involvement in the community and such. I think he's going to be a good fit.
That's great.
Okay, so the next item is for action, is to discuss equity training recommendation for incoming committee members, the RPD staff, and the commissioners. Do we want to start with a motion, or Natalie, do you want to talk a little bit about about the item before we get a motion together?
I think I need to talk about it first because I'm not sure what the motion is. But in doing this RFP and putting all this together, it is pretty clear in there that any incoming and discussing an incoming committee member, we're all supposed to be going through an equity training. We were going to record an equity training with Dr. FEM, and we unfortunately were not able to do that with her. So we don't have anything that's kind of in our library to like present to new staff or board members or committee members. So as you saw, that's written into the RFP for the new consultant. But in the interim, if you feel like we need to forge ahead with some kind of training between now and when that consultant might come on board, we're talking about, we have 2 new staff members. We have 2 new board members that need to go through equity training. And now we will potentially have a new committee member. So there's 5 people that actually need to go through this training, equity training.
Well, there's going to be a 3rd board member too.
There will be another board member. Yeah. So there will be 3 board members, a committee member, and 2 staff members. So 6. So my recommendation, we have done a lot of workshops with the YW Equity Institute, and their workshops are really terrific. So we have equity budget for it. I'm wondering how everybody feels about making a recommendation to the board that in the interim of not having a consultant, that we, and then following our equity charter that was passed by the board, that they attend some kind of training at the Y.
I like the idea. I'm thinking about the budget and something to consider if we're looking at pinching pennies, is that there are an awful lot of good training materials that are out there, pre-recorded training materials. And with a little searching, we probably could identify some of that. So just an alternative.
Sure. I will say with the Y, the workshops are $100 a person, but they give you a 25% discount when you register more than 2 people. So, and it is a local organization that we like to partner with. So I feel like if we are going to spend money, I would like to see it go to the Y Equity Institute. But if we want to look for more cost effective training, I think that's fine too. I just think we need to put something on the table for folks to do sooner than later.
Well, let me ask this, right? So there was money set aside in the equity budget. Remind me when this budget year ends? The fiscal year?
At June 30th.
So, and I know there's a bit of a question, Elaine, I don't know if you got to this point in the meeting, but I know there's some question about like the tax money not coming in and wanting not to spend all the money. I don't, like, I'm not sure exactly how all that's going to get laid out.
Yeah.
But we still have a good chunk of money left in the equity budget. I think that using it to send people to the Y, I think is a really wise way to spend that money. We're not going to have a new consultant hired by the end of this fiscal year. So in some ways, this keeps our promise to the community. If we were to use some of that money for equity training for the board.
I mean, for 6 people at the Y, it's like a total of $450. So it like barely puts a dent in like the $10,000 equity budget that we have for this year.
Right. And I would be willing to, if everyone's going to go do it together, or even if they do it separate, I would be willing to pay my own way to do the same training, so that we have somebody who knows exactly what they went through in terms of training on the committee. So we know, what they've learned and what they haven't, or what we hope they had learned and what they haven't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially in compared to, what we have gotten from Pat. So I think it would be great if somebody made a motion to recommend that some of those equity, and we got to word this better than what's coming out of my mouth right now, but like that we use some of that equity money to put the new board members and the new employees and committee members through a training at the Y that is related to equity.
I do want to say also quickly, the reason I'm being specific about the Y, and again, we can be specific about somewhere else or something else, but I don't want to leave people up to their own devices to do some kind of equity training. I think it needs to be consistent. It needs to be one thing that they're all doing together. I think that's really important to set that expectation.
I agree with you. My hope is that we eventually get to a point where we can all go off and do different trainings and come back and teach each other what we've learned, but we're not at that space right now. I think that I think that we are not on the same page right now. And I think that the training is going to be a part of getting us all on the same page.
Yeah.
I also, I've done a couple trainings at the Y Equity, and I think they do a really fantastic job. I think that is a great place to send people.
Question that I have about the Y, and I don't disagree with you, JC, but a question that I have is that do we have a conflict with the prior work that we did with GLO?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
What do you mean, Elaine?
Well, he's one of the equity consultants. Is there I'm asking the question, is there an issue?
His firm is separate than from the Equity Institute. So, and we don't have a contract with him. So there wouldn't be any conflict as far as I know.
Okay. All right.
I wasn't clear if Elaine meant that he was working with the YW Equity Institute, which I don't think he is. Is that what you mean, Elaine?
Oh, I think he is.
He might be an equity consultant.
Is he doing the workshops?
I don't believe so. I think
he does do workshops.
Huh.
Through the YW?
Yeah.
Okay. I've gone to like quite a few, maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5. And I'm realizing as I say this, that just because Elaine, is that her name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Tiffany?
Eileen?
Eileen.
Eileen. I knew it was close to Elaine, but it wasn't Elaine. Eileen has done, I think, almost all, if not all, of the ones that I've attended. So you're saying that Gilo runs those workshops sometimes as well?
Yes, or he works in
Okay.
them. Uh-huh.
All right, I did not realize that. And so from what perspective are you viewing that to potentially be a conflict?
I'm just asking if there is an issue.
Okay.
And I'm asking about, what I'm asking about is, how we best fit in with the, with the personnel that are working in these various institutions, agencies that we have that we'd be working with together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's a problem at all. I'm just raising the question.
I think I think it's a good question, right? I think it's good to be reminded how incredibly close knit Evanston is. I think it's a great question. Just so you know, I'm just peeking on their website right now. I don't see him listed anywhere on here as like senior staff or anything along those lines. I have not been able to find.
He is listed as a consulting partner,
Where
but their institute team who leads the workshops are Tiffany, Eileen, Leanne, Heather, and Rachel. I've been to some with Leanne and Eileen and Tiffany. So I don't think he leads their workshop series, but he is listed as a consulting partner.
So possibly in the same way that like Tracy and
Tracy is also listed as a consultant partner.
Right. So they'll
Carol, Rena.
Exactly. So, right. Like when we reach out to the Y for consulting, they're not doing consulting themselves anymore. They are connecting to other consultants in the community. Dr. Logan is one of those consultants that they're connecting to people to. That's what it seems to be that you found.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can double check. Even if for some reason it was Dr. Logan that was doing the workshop, I don't think it would be a problem, other than like, it might be challenging because of what we've gone through together this year. But I don't think there's any conflict of interest beyond that.
No, and I would really hope that, if for some reason it does end up that he is in a training that we are partaking, regardless of what happened with the contract, we are all hoping to get the same work done. And I would really hope that we could put that at the forefront. And
yeah,
I'm trying to erase some adjectives to my brain. Give me a second. And not really focus on the previous things that happened.
Well, there are a lot of people out there to work with. So just something to take into consideration.
Yes.
Well,
I'd hate to see some bad feelings, if there were bad feelings, and I don't know, I have no idea. But if there were bad feelings, I'd hate to see that that us to become entangled in that or have that somehow undermine the work that we're doing.
I agree.
I agree. And I think it's definitely worth discussing, especially because I didn't even know that he was officially involved in the Equity Institute's work at all. My best sense of the true ultimate reason that we did not end up working with him is because of contract negotiations not working out. So that's something that was between lawyers, and it's too bad, but I don't think that it means that there's some huge problem about running into each other in town or being in workshops. I want to speak to your other point though, Elaine, the idea that, do we want to use, money for trainings, especially at a time when we are trying to at least delay expenditures, if not eliminate them. And it's more of a delay than eliminate, but obviously if we want to get a new REDI committee member trained sooner rather than later, then that's not necessarily something that we can delay or want to delay. I do like the idea of seeing what other resources are out there, but I also really like JC's idea of being consistent and making sure that the training is the same. We can make changes, but until we make changes, we should be picking something that then applies to everybody in that same amount of time from whenever we pick it till we change it. And I don't like the idea, as Natalie said, or as Natalie said that she didn't like either, that people are just on their own to go do. Was that you that said that, Natalie, or was that
Yeah.
JC? So I mean,
Yeah.
one thing I want to add to Elaine's point about, do we want to, have to enroll people in workshops that cost money? Granted, it's not a huge cost in the big picture of our budget, but it is a perpetual cost, because if we have people who are coming onto the committee again and again and again, I mean, hopefully we see long-term membership, but you never know for sure. Like you say, people move, and I'm sorry, I wish I could stick around, guys. I wish I could stick around on the board. I don't know that it's, ideal for me to take up a spot as a community member on the REDI committee, since I won't be living in the district, but certainly if you're not filling all of the spots, I would be happy to take one of them until somebody replaces me. But I hadn't really gotten as far as thinking that through. But I'm talking about, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember we talked to Dr. Effiam way back about the idea that maybe we would come up with some trainings that would be recorded, and then all future committee members could sort of view the pre-recorded content. And we didn't get that far, except for the fact that the trainings we did with Dr. Effiam, if we have that content recorded, and I don't even know if we did record them at that point, but if we have it recorded, that is something to consider, that we could be directing people to that if we feel like the recordings sort of hold up well enough in a long-term way to be revisited. I don't know if all of us feel comfortable with sort of our trainings being, shown to people in the future, and it would be fair to discuss that first. But Elaine, if you have anything specific, when you were saying that there's a lot of pre-recorded content out there, and I don't know if you meant specifically available for free, or if you just meant that we should consider other options. I see both points. I definitely agree with you, Natalie, that the YW is a local entity that's doing great work, and we partner with them regularly, and I like to support them. But I'm always open to the idea of what other content is out there. One thing I like too is the idea that there might be more of a comprehensive training, which isn't to say it's easy to just sum up everything relating to equity all at once, boom. But the YW does have these workshops about this content, and then about this content, and then about this. So it's sort of like, are we expecting a future committee member to go to all of them, or pick your favorite 3? Yeah, Natalie.
Can I speak to that really quickly? So right now they're offering 3. One of them is called Power and Privilege for Board Members. One of them is called Becoming an Equitable Institution, that is meant for board and staff. And then there's one called Bias and Accountability that's more kind of general. I would say if we're making this recommendation to the board, that would include board members, staff, and committee members, that we would recommend that they attend the Becoming an Equitable Institution workshop.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, some of those are very clear.
It covers all the things. I mean,
Yeah.
based on like the description of it.
Right. And actually, I'm trying to remember if I've been to any of those. Those are all
They're
new.
new. These are new. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to any of those. So you're reminding me that I would love to go as well. If I can squeeze it in while I'm still on the board. Yeah, so I think where are we at? Were we on a motion here, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out like what exactly that I mean, the other thing that we can do, right, if we're going to be meeting April 7th, we can go out and each of us do some research of what is available out there beyond the Y. I mean, I personally am in favor of this becoming an equitable institution. But if we want, we can also go out and see what else is available, and we can discuss it at the April 7th meeting, because then we can still have time to make a motion and make a recommendation for the 14th. The only thing that I don't know if you noticed is this becoming an equitable institution. Right now, the only date that I'm seeing listed is April 14th. I don't know if there's going to be.
They update them pretty regularly. I can always email Tiffany too and see if she can give me the inside scoop on future dates.
I feel like their previous schedule, and I don't know if this has changed, but I feel like their previous schedule was sort of somewhat quarterly is when they would offer like almost all, if
Fine.
not all of them. So like if you couldn't get in this quarter, it's only like 2-3 months till you're waiting to the next repeat. But I don't know if they're still doing it that way.
Well, and also, if we're going to be bringing 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 people, I think it's important for us to find out what their capacity limit is. I mean, I suppose if needed, we can spread it out where, somebody goes to the
They're
second.
doing
quarter.
them on Zoom now, JC, so they don't have a capacity limit.
Awesome. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but when we go back to like all in-person meetings, I think I'm going to be sad. It's very comfortable working from my office and my glider rocking chair.
I talked to Charles about that today. He thinks that the disaster proclamation is going to get extended again. But we don't know yet.
Okay. I mean, I don't want a disaster. I just like working from home.
So do you want to say that we'll do our independent research on this and make a 4 action at the next?
I think so. Natalie, if you could please touch base with the YW and kind of see what things are like moving forward. And then Martha, Elaine, and I can look into non-Y trainings.
Okay.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
And
And
we will
just
table this one.
to give you a heads up, the kind of money that we're talking about for these is not the kind of money that Jerry and Brian are worried about. We've been talking about that pretty extensively. So Brian has basically said if it's budgeted for, we need to spend money on it. We can't like hold off on everything. But if there's like a giant thing that we want to do and we need to like rearrange and whatever to make it happen, then we need to stop thinking about that. But
Okay.
I'll double check with him again tomorrow and say like it would be between like this amount and this amount if people went, and just make sure that we have his blessing if we decide to go with the Y.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're going to table that item. We'll talk about it at the next meeting. That brings us to call of the committee. Does anybody have anything they would like to say?
I did.
Yes.
I did. Hold on. Okay. Speaking of the YW Equity Institute, they're doing their Stand Against Racism on Ridge Avenue on April 28th at 10:30. I will register us for that, the Ridgeville Park District. When we've done it in the past, they bring us like signs and you stand on Ridge Boulevard and hold the sign. They also have, they're also asking for videos from your workplace or your community or your committee, talking about what it means to be anti-racist. And I'm wondering if there's interest in us making a video for that. We can talk about it in April, but I just wanted to throw it out there. I think if there was interest, it would be just as simple as like at the end of our REDI meeting, reading whatever we want to read together. I can cut a clip from the Zoom meeting recording and then I can send it to them. So it can be very easy.
I like that idea.
This is Martha. I would like to take the opportunity to officially thank Iden Bernstein-Nallen for her involvement in the REDI committee as a community member. We're so sad to see her go. But what I want to focus on is the time she spent here with us and being involved and sharing her opinions and her experience and her heart. And I just want to thank her and, honor the work that she put in. And I hope that we'll be seeing her even though she's, officially left the committee.
Yeah.
Elaine, do you have anything?
Well, I would accord with Martha.
I have a couple of things. My first one is, exactly what Martha said. I prepared something to read at the April board meeting that I wanted to share with you all. Bernstein is her maiden name?
Yes.
I want to add that in there. that Aiden has stepped off the committee and that we are so grateful for her participation. In her time on the committee, she was able to connect the organization Young Black and Lit, connect with the organization Young Black and Lit to bring books representing children of color to the Ridgeville Park District Library. Her perspective as a mother to biracial children and a teacher to children with special needs was crucial to the committee and will be dearly missed. She is also a wonderful and warm person who draws others to her, and the connections she has made in the community were incredibly beneficial to our group. We are very sad to see her go, but know that her connection to Ridgeville will remain, and we look forward to having her and her family forever be a part of our community. It's been a few meetings since she's been with us, but I really feel like her voice is missed, and I understand and respect her decision, but she's a hard one to let go. I also just wanted to say one other thing. I just wanted to take a minute to thank District 65, and in particular, the Student Assignment Planning Committee for their commitment to equity within the district. For those who don't know, there are changes that need to be made within the district to accommodate our students. As parents, we were given opportunities to have our voices heard, but what really impressed me was the way that they listened to us and adjusted their plans accordingly. It made me so proud to be a part of this community and put me in a position where I was able to tell my kids the great things that can happen when we use our voices. A very big thank you goes out to the administrators, teachers, parents, and students that stood up for what we think is best, not only for our own families, but for our community as a whole. But this is also an important reminder that our work is not done. We saw the power we have when we work together. Let's not forget that and use it to continue to promote positive change and equity in our education system. I was really blown away with how well they listened to us. And how quickly they were able to turn around our recommendations and incorporate them into our plans. And I am so excited that they are keeping both magnet schools, are keeping 3 K-8 schools, which is particularly important to my family. I'm really excited that they did such a great job involving and listening to the community. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, I think that brings us to a close.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
Awesome, thank you. It is 8:24. Thank you all so much for your hard work. I feel like we accomplished a whole lot in these 2 hours, and this was a very good meeting. Thank you all.
Julie,
Thank you.
really quick.
Mhm.
So for the draft of these minutes that you'll send to us for the April meeting, you'll need to include the RFP and also a copy of JC's statement that she just made. Will you email it
Okay.
to her, JC?
I will write just the District 65 part.
Yeah, the statement that you prepared and read.
Okay, yeah,
Just
because
send a copy of that to her.
the one about Iden, I'm going to say at the board meeting.
Okay.
So that'll be included there.
That'll be
Okay.
included.
Will do, and that way you don't have to type it up, Julie. I'll just send it to you.
Great, thank you. I had one question. When we're talking about the equity training, was that for the YMCA or YWCA?
W.
YW.
YW, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Julie, thank you for taking notes and being so on top of everything. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do I need a roll call us out?
Yes.
Oh, I think we have to say all in favor.
Oh,
All in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
have a good one.
Thanks.